Hello, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to week 2 of our LEC breakdowns. I hope you guys all enjoy. Thank you all for the great feedback on episode 1. Of course, now episode 2 with week 2 corresponding for LEC. We break it down. We give it out awards. If you guys are new to the show, we give out 5 awards, which you'll find out throughout the show. They're also timestamped down below as well as we talk about the current standings right now. Compared to NALCS, I would say, though, the shakedown after 2 weeks of LEC, I gotta get used to saying that. I would say so far the standings are actually going towards what we probably projected these teams to be at. I think besides maybe an SK, maybe an XL, those are the 2 teams I would choose to maybe have an upset chance at actually making playoffs. A lot of these standings do make sense. Of course, Fnatic down there is obviously a pretty big surprise, but besides that, really going in the direction I think a lot of us saw going in. I think, of course, the struggles of Rogue need to be talked about. Origin down there as well. I would say most players out there, most people out there, not too surprised by that. We'll talk more about G2 as well, the only remaining undefeated team throughout LEC through week 2. Other teams out there really impressing me like Schalke. But as always, guys, let's break it down. Get into our first award, that being the best team we saw this week. And I cannot deny it, guys. It has to be G2. Although I will say Schalke definitely a runner-up in this category. For a lot of these awards, I actually do nominate probably 1 or 2. It should be usually one option, but for some, like the MVP player or the MVP or the best team of the week, I will usually choose 1 or 2 options too, because there are some weeks out there where some big things happen for multiple teams. And especially this week when it came to choosing the best team, because G2 and Schalke both went 2-0, I gave it to G2 based off the one fact they're the only remaining undefeated team, but they both look just so impressive in their games. I would say if they weren't undefeated, G2 would actually lose this award to Schalke. I saw really 2 clean extended games, a team who is not afraid to not take the chance. They will drag these games out. They will continue their gold leads, continuing their kill differential as well. A team who is not afraid to not take the chance. They will secure the victory and do so in very long fashion. They did so against SK, against Fnatic, and both those games looking pretty clean. Now, when it comes to Fnatic, this week I cannot complain, guys. Against Rogue, Perks and Caps took full advantage of this week, and they looked so dominating, but many teams have against Rogue, and their game against XL, of course, a lot closer than many of us actually saw. I think we did see, though, some semblance of their composure, which they're known for in that late game. Of course, they lost that late Baron. They then take an Elder instead. They take the late game crucial fight, which turned the entire game around, and of course ended in their own victory. I do think, based off, if there was any possibility of me choosing 2 best teams, these were by far and away the most impressive teams. G2 showing some semblance of a composure in that late game versus XL, a lineup I still think has potential to be a surprise lineup in the future, although in their second matchup, kind of falling off the hilt a little bit there. And again, Schalke, the team I would say most impressively, most cleanly won their games this weekend, and certainly deserving of these awards, which does correspond with my MVPs of the week. Yes, I have to say it's between 2 players. Of course, last week it was Perks. This week I have to have a secondary notion of Upset. He is looking absolutely dominant. You guys can choose in the comments if you'd like to. My 2 MVPs of this week have to be Caps, and they have to be Upset. These guys are looking so dominant, it's actually pretty scary. And I say this because Caps has had week in and week out, through 2 weeks that is, just absolutely dominant performances. Him alongside Perks, it's scary to see players like this have such star talent, even though, yes, it's early on, but Caps on Akali, I think during that late game of XL, we'll have him on the play of the week later on. I think he clearly did, if not save this game, at least turn it around somewhat in their favor by giving them some momentum and some sort of semblance of hope in that game as well. But I would give it to a slight edge, Upset this week, because of his stat line. We have not seen this in a long time throughout the split. This weekend alone, guys, on Kaisa, this guy goes 18-1 in 17. 10-1 against Fnatic. He goes deathless against SK, and they do a great job. I will say, of course, him alongside Ignar, they are one of the better duos we have seen, if not debatably the best we have seen so far. They do a great job, the team entirely, of feeding Upset, but he does a great job, of course, pushing those leads into late game, if the games even last that late. The 2 MVPs, the 2 MVP teams, they have to be between Schalke and G2, guys. Caps and Upset are my most 2 notable players throughout this past weekend, and both teams are looking stellar so far alongside them. And very simply, yes, play of the week has to be my man Caps. We saw him shroud at the end of the game as well. Late game, the game was already wrapped up as they took the Nexus. He hides in his shroud, but it was actually these 2 clutch kills. Very, very low health, minimal health for himself, guys, on Akali. He takes 2 kills, though, against XL in this play.
Smite inside the fight. Cagel and Kasing are going low, and Caps is running away. Decimating Smash comes down, but there's not a follow-up. Wonder's hunting Cagel, trying to get the shutdown gold. Cagel is worth so much money, but look at the burst damage! Caps isn't done yet! He's got one! He's got two! He's gonna get taken down!
And then very lastly, I usually hate talking about this, but I think it's something that needs to be mentioned, right? Many of us, you know, can't really express our opinions, but that's what the comment section is for. I must preface, I never have any hate for these players. I'll probably say it each and every week. You guys might get sick of it, but I have to mention the most underwhelming player as well as the most underwhelming team. I might as well roll the second credit though, because this week, I hope it's the only week I do this. I am not going to choose an underwhelming player, although if I did, it would likely be Reckless, but I'm going to choose just in general, guys, an underwhelming team to kind of roll into that player, of course being Fnatic. Now, an 0-4 start, it must be talked about. Feel free to leave your feedback down below. Certainly a shock. I think there's a lot of ways to look at this. Of course, week 1, you look at those 2 losses against Origin, against SK, 2 certainly projected lower half teams, and definitely upsets, but it's a week 1 loss. It's week 1 losses. You kind of usually look ahead of those because, you know, the roster, especially with Nemesis being newly added, it's a new foundation for the roster to be built on. Certainly a new playstyle they're trying out. You know, ever since the Caps, a more so aggressive counterpart of Nemesis has left. And Nemesis, certainly a more passive player, I would say, compared to him. It seems to be working out for Nemesis, but not for this roster. I seriously think we have seen a big change up from this roster from week 1 to week 2. I think we saw a more of an interactive Broxa from game 1. Ever since then, we've seen a shadow of himself, definitely a more passive between him and Hilly, and it's not working for these guys. I don't know if it's playstyle, I don't know if it's composition. I would say Nemesis is, in my opinion, the clear favorite on this roster, but everyone else seems to be very much struggling, and once Fnatic has fallen behind in these matchups. Now let's give them some precedence, right? This week for week 2, Schalke and Vitality, 2 certainly arguably top 3, certainly top 5 teams this split. They've already identified themselves to be certain threats, and of course Fnatic kind of trying to figure themselves out. They probably were not favorites in this matchup, but I think many of us thought they would certainly not go 0-4 these first 2 weeks, and there are certainly some struggles there. What I have seen so far is people like Reckless, people like Hilly, once they fall behind, they seem to be inting very hard, and I would say in that Schalke matchup, I mean, you go 1-8 on Sivir, you have to be blamed for that loss. The entire team did feed, right? There were plenty of deaths. There were tens and tens of deaths in that matchup, but from Reckless, what I saw was what we saw maybe from Ole and NALCS, a team that's trying to double down. Once they get behind in gold leads, they're trying to double down on their risks. They they overcommit. They dive way too deep. They die, and the losses just get bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know what fixes Fnatic needs, but they certainly would be my underwhelming team this week. Of course, you guys can leave comments down below what you think. I think Fnatic just need a win. They need momentum. They need some sort of confidence to boost themselves back up again, and these next 2 weeks are certainly their opportunity to do so. But as always, I hope you guys all enjoy. My name is Jake. I hope you somehow give me your feedback on week 2 LEC breakdown. I really do enjoy doing these episodes because I give you guys my viewpoints, you guys show me yours, and of course we enjoy watching League of Legends all the same. But as always, I'll see you guys back here next Tuesday breaking down week 3, and we can only hope the best for all these teams and their futures. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.